Before we begin, thank you very much to Super Striker 7 for joining the Patreon campaign over at patreon.com/TJOmega. We're getting really close to the Beast Wars review series, and that is going to be a workload, but I'm willing to do it if you guys are willing to get me there, and I thank all of you for doing that. It means the world to me. Now, I wanted to do another tier list because it's been a hot minute since we did one of these, but I wanted to do it a little bit differently, and I wanted to hit a topic that people would know I had a certain interest in. So I decided what toy line, what Transformer toy line was short-lived and had enough to where I could just knock it out in one tier list video rather than go through like a top 10 or anything crazy. And I thought, my old friend Titanium. It's been so long. But you know what? It's where I started. It's where the Plastic Addict started. You see him right there. He's number 2 in the line. So you know what? I think this is appropriate. Let's go through the entirety of the Titanium toy line and see exactly where the Plastic Addict ranks them. And we're starting with Unicron, who represents all of the 3-inch versions of the Titaniums. And he is going to go straight into the flea market. All of the 3-inch Titaniums, I think, were terrible. I didn't like the sculpt on any of them. The choices they made for the characters were really odd. You had a toy line where Bumblebee, Predaking, and Unicron were all the same size. I didn't like the sculpting. The paint was terrible, especially on Unicron. I think Predaking was the only one that was like really impressive because they actually had to try. Beyond that, no, I never did like the 3-inch ones. So all the 3-inch ones go in the flea market section. Now let's get back to Menasor. It has been it's scary to think about how long it's been since I did the Titanium Menasor review. I was a much younger YouTuber then. But how do I feel about him now? Now, to be honest, I have softened on the mold. In hindsight, I do like the mold better than I kind of let on the Plastic Addict review. To be honest, most Plastic Addict episodes are exaggerated for the sake of comedy. But that said, he's still not great, and I've never been a fan of the black Rodimus color scheme. I don't think he's going to be bargain bin. For now, I'm putting him in retail, but he's probably going to go with the far end of the retail. So here we have, let me flip these around. No, actually that's okay. So there's a Seeker mold in Titanium, which means there's a lot of those to go through. There's only one that was left off this list entirely, and that was a minor repaint of the first Optimus Prime for Titanium. So it's a very minor difference between the two. So we're not including that one. Every other repaint is in here, including 5 different iterations of this Seeker mold. And we're going to start with Starscream, who I do think runs right at the retail release. It's standard Starscream colors. The gray head is a little odd. And it's going to get odder here. So, yeah, he goes straight into the retail. I think it's a decent enough mold. It's got a few weight issues, but not nearly as bad as other Titaniums, and the vehicle mode is beautiful. The vehicle mode is super sleek. Thundercracker was the first one out the gate on that mold. He was the first one to actually be released. I don't like how much gray is in him. Like, for whatever reason, they avoided... for whatever reason... They decided that his head was going to be gray too. Like, we're missing like the traditional black Seeker head. And yeah, I do think they were a little bit too heavy on the gray. I'm putting him below Starscream. Skywarp. Probably I kind of regret selling mine. Kind of the closest I was ever going to get to that particular design in those colors. I seem like I lament about that in a lot of videos lately. You can tell it's a sore spot. But you know what? I'm bumping him all the way to the premium section. This takes a nice mold and gives it a beautiful color scheme. And they didn't mess with it the way they did Starscream and Thundercracker. It does make it odd, because if you have the 3 together, they don't match. You know, Skywarp's got the black head, the other 2 have the gray heads, and it makes it look really weird when you have the 3 together. I hate when they do all three Seekers, but they modify one somehow so it stands out. They did that with the Combiner War Leader classes. They did that with the Armada. No, stop that. All the same. Do it the same style on all of them or leave it. Sunstorm. I never liked the Sunstorm colors on this mold. Never liked it. I didn't think this mold suited the Sunstorm colors. I don't really like bash on Sunstorm much, but like this for me like took a good mold and like really just like dragged it down. I just did not like seeing Sunstorm on this one. It's still a decent mold, so it's gonna go retail, but we're putting it low. Yeah, I think I dislike it less than Menasor, honestly. Well, no, it's not fair. It's not fair. Menasor's mold has issues. We'll be fair here. And then we did Thrust, which is one I never actually got, but I actually really, really like Thrust colors on this mold, so I'm actually bumping him to top of retail. It's definitely not better than Skywarp, but I do think strangely enough, it suits the mold better than Starscream and Thundercracker did, even though it's like one of the few thrusts that is not a cone head in any way. Ultra Magnus, we have a pair of them, a unique mold and a repaint. So the unique mold, I actually think is a pretty decent Ultra Magnus outside of the fact, of course, that he's got these like, they missed a transformation step. Like, I think I remember reading an interview where they intended for the shoulders, the shoulders to slide forward in order to sit correctly on the torso. And if they had done that, this would have been a brilliant and, like, frankly, almost perfect Ultra Magnus to be like a desktop size Ultra Magnus. This was also the first Magnus we got that skipped the trailer mode. It skipped the like little white Optimus Prime. Went straight from tractor trailer all the way to robot, and that I really liked. I'm putting him at premium. He is one of the better molds in the line. He does, aside from that weird little flaw with how far back his shoulders sit, the rest of him, yeah, like the rest of him's pretty solid for titanium. His other figure, on the other hand, oh boy. So the Optimus mold is not great. It's got a lot of it's a floppy mold. It looks fine, but it doesn't really play fine. And that mold never really set well with me. Okay, so getting him in like the white color scheme, like the white Optimus color scheme, to be like a War Within Ultra Magnus, which he wasn't. He didn't look like that in War Within, by the way. That does not work for me. Did not work for me at all. All right, Jetfire. Okay, this mold's messy. I mean, for one, the backpack on mine could never stay on. It just fell off all the time. Also, transformation was never really cool. It should be a unique transformation that actually sells this and makes it more interesting, but it just never comes across as like a fully transformed vehicle mode. It's really weird. I did not like this mold. I thought it was just too awkward, too clumsy in the design. Transformation is just not inspiring. He's down in the bin. A little bit better than Optimus, I would say, but yeah, at the very least, he's more interesting than Optimus, or in this case, Magnus. But we'll get there. Spoilers. Scorch. Weirdly enough, like, I believe this is only the second G1 Scorch we got. And also, for those who are unfamiliar with titanium, I should probably point out at this point, it is an interesting little mix now, isn't it? We have a lot from a comic book series called War Within, but we also have some G1 mixed in. We have some Dreamwave mixed in. We're going to get a little bit of, we're getting a little Beast Wars and some very weird Beast Wars choices. But for now, we're talking about the Scorch, and the Scorch is okay. I don't think it's a fantastic take on Scorch. It does have issues in hindsight. It was definitely better than his G1, but that wasn't a high hurdle to clear. I don't think it's better than the Seeker mold, but I do think it's better than the Rodimus mold. So up in the retail release he goes. War Within Megatron. Here is a tricky one. So the robot looks great. It looks spot on to the War Within design. The transformation is abysmal. He doesn't really transform much. He mostly transforms by laying down and hiding his head underneath his own turret. It's no. It's a mold that looks good, but like kind of like Optimus. It's a mold that looks good, but it doesn't play good. You know, it's not a pleasant mold. He's going in bargain bin. He's going on the upper side of bargain bin just because he looks so good in the robot mode, but he just does not work. He does not work. He's not a great toy. He's not. Fallen. The proper Fallen, not the one that the movies came up with. No, not Megatronus that they keep turning him into now. No, this is the proper Fallen, who looks like he looks like one of those old cast iron stoves, just like burning hot. Very cool aesthetic, and I love that this design was clever enough to actually work in his flames. You know, it's just a paint detail on the backside of his treads that hang up over his back, but you know what? Spot on. It's a way of working it in, and it looks really cool, and he plays pretty cool. Like, he was close to being a really good toy. Tolerance issues got the better of him, but otherwise, if we're only going to get one version of an official Fallen in that type, in that style, we could have done a lot worse. I'm putting him up to premium. I'm putting him over Skywarp. Yeah, but not above Magnus. Magnus is definitely the better mold. And now we get to the proper War Within Optimus Prime. He is, again, like I said, he's kind of floppy. His joint tolerances are bad. Transformation's pretty simple. I mean, he looks fine in both modes. Just getting him from one to the other was not good. Like, Titanium probably had the worst first impression of any Transformer line ever because both toys in Wave 1 were not good. Optimus was just marginally better than his wave mate. Never liked the mold. Again, like the look. Don't like the engineering. Don't like the tolerances. This one had a lot of problems. So, no. Magnus, get behind him. You're always going to be number 2. No matter how low Optimus is, you're always going to be number 2 to him. At least when you're a repaint. Up here, no, you're fine. You're good. Grimlock, another War Within design. Wow. He's a weird one. So, he also doesn't have much to his transformation, just like the War Within Megatron. But then again, he doesn't really need much. His tank mode is just... His tank mode looks like a third of his T-Rex mode with just a tread. It was just treads underneath. That's essentially what his tank mode was. And, it captures that perfectly. Like, it's spot on what he looked like in War Within. The robot mode gets a little bit weird because, like, for whatever reason, the engineering style to his arms made him, like, really scrawny armed. I'm not sure if I put him in premium or not. He's one of those he looks good. He looks good. Does he play good? Nah, not especially, but I think definitely better than some of the ones that I've already talked about. So, I guess he doesn't really do anything wrong. The thing with Megatron is they simplified him so much that he barely feels like a Transformer, and then he has to part form on top of that. Grimlock kind of does it all in one. He's very simple, but doesn't really need to be complex. So, I'm going to put him top of retail, with the option of moving him to premium if I feel nice by the end of this video. Hot Spot, or Hot Zone as we had to call him at the time because of trademarks. This is as close as we're going to get to that canceled OTFCC concept of RID Optimus Prime redone with hotspot colors and a Defensor head. Closest we're going to get. The color scheme on this is like blunt force trauma'd into this mold. Like, it doesn't work for me. It just... I can't see Hotspot in it. That's the thing. If they did something new with the head, fine. Okay, okay. I can go with you. If you did something different with the chest, all right. If the chest was more solid red like the original Hotspot. As it stands, I mean, it's just RID Prime in blue, right? The problem is, it's a nice mold. I think here's the thing. This is where, like, color scheme really makes or breaks just how good a figure is by appearance. I think it's a fantastic mold, but I think the color scheme really works against it. I want to put it top of retail for now because of the mold's quality, but the paint job just takes so much out of just like the presentation of that figure. The original titanium Megatron. You know how many times I am asked, is he still the worst? Have Transformers done anything worse since then? You know, the masterpieces that break when you first transform them, you know, all the RID figures that are based around gimmicks that basically make the toy non-functional. You know, is he really worse than like some of the bad Transformers that have come out since? Yes. Yes. To this day, for right now and forever, I cannot feasibly imagine a Transformer coming out that is any worse than Titanium Megatron. The engineering is horrible. The diecast is terribly placed. The joint tolerances are non-existent. You have his legs and like half of his pelvis on each leg held on by C-clips. Tiny, thin C-clips, and these are metal parts they're holding on to. And I hold on to. They don't hold on. This is the toy that famously you have to take out of his box piece by piece because there is no way to remove him from his box and maintain the structure of the figure. And then, yeah, robot mode looks ugly. Tank mode looks ugly. Everything about this toy is ugly. Paint job is ugly. Worst toy of all time. Worst Transformer of all time. Will never change my mind. We have another former friend of mine. You see how many... Plastic Addict lived and died by the titanium line, didn't it? Optimal Optimus is still a bizarre one. Now, technically, he doesn't really do anything terribly wrong as an Optimal Optimus, other than he really only has the tank and the jet mode. No beast mode whatsoever, which, you know, is kind of a sin for a Beast Wars toy. Now, if you had marketed him as Beast Machine's Megatron from the final episode, okay, you have a very clever figure on your hands, but they didn't do that. Instead, no, they just plain omitted a mode for the sake of simplicity. And the thing is, Titanium Optimal is about as complex as the large Optimal. He's just, you know, the initial design is so simple that you didn't really improve upon it. You can't really make it worse. Oh, Power of the Primes tried to make it worse. But in this case, I'm putting him bargain bin, but I'm kind of putting him at the top. In hindsight, he doesn't do as much wrong. He's just a really disappointing Optimal. Beyond that, no, not terrible. Not terrible. Well, kind of terrible. Who am I kidding? All right. Controversial decision time. We are staring at Beast Machine's Cheetor in the Titanium line, which in any other aspect should be a recipe for disaster. So, the fun part about this toy is that if you go and ask the original designers, they talked about Titanium Cheetor. Apparently, when the Titanium line had its list of characters it was going to include, Cheetor's name was on the list, but it didn't say what Cheetor. They just wanted a Cheetor. So one thing you'll know about the Titanium line is that they really liked using it for name dumps. Characters that hadn't had their trademark refreshed in a long time, you ended up as a Titanium figure. Those 3-inch ones were great for that. And they just needed to keep Cheetor alive, so they decided, hey, we're going to do a Cheetor in this line. They let the designer pick which one, and they picked, for whatever reason, the Beast Machine's design. And you know what? Good figure. He suffers one flaw, which does make it almost impossible to transform him back if you do it wrong, but as long as you're aware of that and you always transform him correctly, there's really not a whole lot wrong with him. He bulked up the parts from his Beast Machine's design enough to where he's stable in robot mode. He looks the part in robot mode. The Beast mode looks really good. He's got his swords. You know, he's probably the best Beast Machine's Cheetor there is. I might dare say the best Beast Machine's base toy there is, period. He is really, really good. surprisingly good for the titanium line. I will say that this is like in perspective of titanium here. You know, like if I put that Cheetor up against like even like Netflix Cheetor or Kingdom Cheetor, you know, I don't think titanium Cheetor beats that one. But in this case, if we're judging by titanium itself, yes, it is absolutely one of the best ones. So I talked about before how a paint job can really hurt a figure that otherwise isn't that bad. As time has gone on, I've learned to appreciate titanium Rodimus Prime a lot more. What he did was pretty ambitious. To create was essentially a deluxe size Rodimus Prime, who also included his trailer in the transformation. That's not something any Hasbro toy has attempted since then. You know, we've gotten Rodimus Primes, but the trailer was always a separate thing, or it turned into armor for his upgrade. You know, it was always an individual piece some way or another. Here, it was integrated. You know, and it's the only time Hasbro's attempted it. It does come up with a very buff Rodimus Prime. And he does have some weirdness like the scrawniness in his waist, and he does have some tolerance issues, but frankly, he isn't that bad. He really isn't. There's a lot of interesting design to him, and some, honestly, I wish they'd try again. I kind of wish they would take a little bit of what made him and try to do Rodimus again. Like, give me like a Voyager or Leader class size Rodimus Prime in a few years, and just, you know, try to make it integrated. You know, you did it once at the titanium scale. Why can't you do it again? I don't think he's going premium though. I'll be that fair. I'm gonna put him top of retail. That's about as far as I can get him. You know, if I'm being completely fair here. Prowl. Oh boy. I hate this mold. Now the vehicle mode looks cool. The vehicle mode looks absolutely cool. And then you get to the robot mode, and everything has gone wrong. His shoulders are gigantically wide, because his torso does not collapse in any way, shape, or form. Extremely narrow waist. His shoulder cannons, which are supposed to, you know, mount on his shoulders, are now, like, flying over his head on little stilts. This toy looks like a mess. This toy is a mess. Never liked this one. I don't think it's flea market bad. I want to put him bottom of the bargain bin because I liked because here's the thing. At least Optimus looked good. At least Optimus looks the part. I don't know what is going on with Prowl. Like, okay, even if I concede that some of that weirdness comes from his War Within design, it's still just such a bad look. It's such a bad-looking figure. Speaking of bad-looking figures, another blast from my past. We have Titanium Soundwave. So, I've softened over the years on the Rodimus mold. I have not softened on Soundwave whatsoever. He still has a nonsensical alt mode. It looks kind of like a tape recorder, kind of like a boombox, but really it's really neither. It's not even close to neither. He still looks like he's wearing a diaper. He's got those terrible slides in his legs to collapse them that never works right. This is another case of diecast gone wrong because his legs never work because of it. Proportions all over the place. The best thing he has going for him is he has a laser beak that works and transforms at a very, very small size. Yeah, he is flea market bad. Yeah, he is flea market bad. He's marginally better than Megatron, simply because that is the worst Megatron and worst Transformer of all time. And then we close off with RID Optimus Prime. And I feel like I saved the best for last. Spoiler alert. I didn't really talk about it much when I talked about Hot Zone, because we were mostly focusing on how much the paint drags the toy back. Here's how much the paint drags the toy back. This is the best titanium toy, period. The transformation works really, really well. It's like Magnus. It is truck to super mode without the robot mode in between, which I really like when they do that sometimes. I like the transformation tricks that this one has. They would, the legs folding, basically coming from the vehicle mode chunks folded inside out. That is something that modern toys started doing. Even Masterpiece started borrowing that trick. The articulation is good for him. The look is spot on. He is very much RID Optimus. They worked in a few hidden guns that can slide away and flip out. Yeah, there's very little bad I can actually say about the mold. I mean, even the diecast really doesn't afflict the figure nearly as bad. Probably because the diecast wasn't, there wasn't, because of the engineering, there wasn't a whole lot of room for diecast. But what there is doesn't really hurt him that much. So yeah, all around, the best titanium toy, and frankly, just a good toy in general, which, there's only a couple titanium figures I can say that about. So that is my list. That is how I pattern out the titanium figures from Holy Grail, Premium Price, Retail Release, Bargain Bin, and Flea Market. This is a weird perspective. I'm surprised how many that are at that retail level. In my harsher years, I would probably knock Menasor and Scourge down to Bargain Bin. Prowl would probably end up Flea Market. Prime and Magnus maybe. But for now, I'm happy. Looking at them in amongst themselves, I think that's okay. And that's about what I expected. Very few at the top, a lot middling, and a pretty full bargain bin. So what do you think? Where does titanium stack for you? Do you agree with my top? You better agree with my bottom. I will not have anyone defending Titanium Megatron in my comments section. But that is what my list for now. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And next time, let's see what else I have to tier, because I'm always looking for ideas on these, and I think I've got a good one for next time. So we'll see. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.